Plenty to be pleased about the midfield, I guess, Luke, but a frustrating night for you in the forward half. How did you keep you cool as the misses mounted?
It was a combination of the misses and maybe some of those inside 50s. It was a pretty frantic game, turnover, and we lacked a bit of composure and played on and went quick a few times when we shouldn't have. So, you hope you haven't exhausted your opportunities. But I felt like we lost our way a little bit again in the third quarter. We let the ball over the back and that created some scores or some looks for Sydney, and they're too potent. They've got too many threats and they use the ball pretty well to give them up. So it was a combination of concerns, but by and large, we were more consistent with our output, and I think there was probably a landslide with the statistics from a quantitative point of view. It's just that quality aspect. So that's encouraging. And we'd had elements of that in the first couple of rounds, but just not for long enough. So and it was great to see, some different players really influence the outcome as the course of the game went on. Historically, we probably relied on 2, 3 or 4 usual suspects, but some of the lesser likes stood up and really helped us get over the line.
It's not a lesser like, but was that the best game you've seen Dunkley perhaps play for the club ever?
He's played some pretty good ones, Tom, and but to have 11 tackles and that much of the ball and be a real staple in there with our midfield was really important tonight, because I think ultimately we probably again statistically won the day, but I don't think we're all on top of our game. So Josh was a mainstay and a really terrific contributor.
I'm not sure how many teams this year will hold the Swans to a goal in the first half. I know there was focus on the defence during the week externally, but you backed them and said it's a collective effort. Was that one of the most pleasing aspects, that defensive effort for you tonight?
Yeah, it was, and we've had signs of that even against Melbourne, for periods of that game, and against Carlton, we kept Carlton about 30 points in the second half. I just scored too much in the first half. So we've worked reasonably cohesively as a team defensively, but we needed to be better in the aerial contest with our backs today. And it's just so pleasing to see Ryan Gardner play the top game that he did. And he's played some really important games for us, but I think none more important than tonight. And again in the third quarter, I felt we let it over the back too much, and we're going to need to improve on that to get what we want.
What about Tim English, Luke? His performance and the influence of him tonight?
Yeah, I thought Tim, he's had some games where he's had some tremendous influence, but I thought he was dominant tonight, and that's important for him and us. And when you think about the two main score origins and turnover and stoppage, he's been playing the turnover game pretty well for us and defensively, but as I said in the pre-match presser, he's searching for his presence around the source, and he gave us stability. He won the hit-out count, which is terrific for him and for us. Had a big influence on the game.
Got a nice ride on Buddy as well. I imagine he'll be pretty happy about that.
Yeah, well, I mean that's an indication of him really wanting to help defensively and working hard, and we've got to preserve him a little bit here and there, and he needs a break, for a reasonable period of time. But yeah, some of those big plays, that was one of them, and so it's encouraging for us and for him.
The way you won the game tonight, winning the contested ball, you had more of the ball, I think, and you won the tackle count. Is that the sort of win that you can build a season on?
Well, yeah, I think our form, we've played a lot of good sides in recent times, and we've been frustrated with things like ball use. We've been discouraged by the lack of consistency in a couple of areas. that's probably one of them, contested footy, which I said before the game, I don't talk about very often, but yeah, it's a crucial starting point for any side. If you're not very good at contested ball, you're not going to be a challenger at the end of the day. So we lost it the last 2 weeks. So tonight was a good example of what we're capable of against a pretty dour Sydney team who've been impressive. So we'll bank the 4 points, but we'll feel pretty good about beating a Sydney Swans team who are going to make it really difficult for a lot of teams this year.
Marcus Bontempelli looked pretty impressive when he kicked that goal at the end, but there'll obviously be focus on his shoulder, Bevo. Was there any issues there? Does he need to get that checked out? Or?
The message came through that it was one of those stingers, and hopefully that's all it is. I mean, they can still hang around for a little while, but just his courage at different times and big spoil in the last quarter. You know, if he doesn't come across, potentially they're kicking a goal and they're only one goal down. And you know, on the stat sheet, he didn't blow it up, but the quality of his game and how crucial his involvements were just insane. So he'll be okay, but I don't think it's anything too serious.
Just on the ruck, Luke, it's been, you've commented a few times how you've probably struggled to have that sort of lead presence. You've tried Jordan, you've had obviously brought Steph to the club, and it was an area that Tim was still developing in, as you sort of just touched on. Do you feel like that could change for you guys this year, that really he could hold down that number one ruck spot and really command that sort of presence? Do you feel like he's got to that point?
I hope so, Joe. I mean, if tonight's an example of the possibilities, then yeah, absolutely. And you know, we've got faith and trust that Tim's emerging and evolving as a player, and he's still learning a little bit, even though he's sort of heading towards the mid-20s. And but he's there's some influential ruckmen in the game. Not all of them play the turnover game that well. They don't all use the ball that well. They're not as highly skilled as him. So the more he can be dour and physical, and he got a lot of clearances off his own bat as well tonight, the more it's going to help us. So yeah, we've yearned for that over a period of time. I think, since really Ruffy and Tommy Boyd, gave us stability a long time ago, we haven't really had stability. I correct myself. At the start of last year, we had some stability. Steph and Tim were a pretty good combo. But moving forward, and the way the game's gone, it's so important that Tim does what he does, and he's got this desire to be a ruckman and not necessarily a forward. So we've got to continually work with him on that. As you've probably noticed, we haven't really played him forward at all this year. Week to week we'll process it and analyse it. But it was a really good night for Tim.
As part of that desire to give him number one ruck time and mostly ruck time, an attempt to lure him to stay at the club. Is there a fear? Is there a fear at all that if he plays forward too much that he would leave?
No, it's a really good question, Daniel, because that's in the background and it's peripheral consideration. But like anything tactically and strategic around roles, and we've got a responsibility to place our players in opportunistic spots and put the best blend out there and implement the right strategy. So hand on heart, I can say that it isn't. But because we know what we can get from him in the game other than just a stoppage as a ruckman. But it's definitely there until Tim's future is sorted out one way or the other. That's just going to be playing out in the background, like a number of our players.
And just Lockie Hunter, I suppose the issues that had him on the fringe of the team at the start of the season, are you been pleased with the way he sort of bounced back from that, and has he found what you want him to find, so to speak? Really
happy with his game tonight. I thought his first half was extremely influential. Yet to go to the next level as a club, as a team, we want all our players who have been prolific at different stages, over history, and been a staple in our team to find new ways to make us better. And yeah, Lockie, the conversation around making sure we don't stagnate as a team has been there over pre-season, and he found himself on the edge. Tonight was an example of how he can influence games and what he's capable of with his work ethic and his skill set and playing that wing role, and he was important in the outcome. So look, it's 1 week, and he'll put his set his sights on next week, and hopefully we can have a similar performance against the Tigers.
Mindful the decision itself might be difficult to comment on, Bevo, but obviously there's a protected zone 50 played an important part of the match. Do you think there's a valid discussion there regarding the consistency of the way they're paid across the game?
Oh, Tom, I'm not sure. I think we gathered who it was paid against and what for. It's a pretty important stage of the game. I'm not sure. I don't think it's being paid too often and in an untoward fashion. So I'm quite neutral on it.
Just on Jamara, it seems like every week you're seeing a little bit more and more of what he can do. Were you pleased with that tonight? A couple of big second efforts in the contest.
Yeah, he's another one that you look at his direct involvements and you say, oh, how did he go? He played a really important role for us. I thought the McCartan brothers were really good for Sydney. They intercepted and they played pretty critical roles on our key forwards. But the great thing about Mara and Norts, they just fought, their backsides off for the team, and they had their looks, and that's the thing. We just need to capitalise on more of these set shots, and but yeah, encouraging and important for the future, but important for the now that we get a really solid contribution from him, and I thought tonight he really gave that.
You see the English bump on Blakey at the end?
Yeah. I haven't slowed it down though. I hope it's all right. He's a big man, and young Blakey's reasonably tall, so he got up pretty quickly, didn't he? I don't know, but that's an indication that Tim had some vigour in his game, and hopefully that's all right.
Would you know? Would you know with the head-eye contact like?
Oh no, I'm not sure, and because there's been so much going on, some of the way that they've been adjudicated, and I know there's been commentary about the consistency or otherwise. I'm probably not in a position to really comment too much because I'm, which isn't great if you're a senior coach, but I've probably just been focusing on some other priorities in recent times, and yeah, hopefully Tim's all right. But it was good to see our guys really attack those loose balls and the body when we needed to, and I think that was just an example of it. Hopefully it is.
What's the status of Zane Cordy? How's he?
Yeah, well, I think he'll go into that, concussive or concussion protocols, and we won't have him next week. And just spoke to him then, and he seemed okay, but he was pretty shaken up. So hopefully it's just short term and he'll be okay. I'm not even sure how it happened. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Luke.